Kyle.
And I'm Melinda.
She's the bigger wig person than me, but I still know a few things.
We go by Melinda Chung, Next Shadow online, and I wrote those over here in case you want to check us out and stuff. So, I like to do wigs. Cosplay wigs is kind of something where a lot of people don't, if they're new to costuming, maybe they don't realize like some of the benefits to having a wig. There's a lot of times where people use their natural hair for a costume, and there's nothing wrong with that. However, there's some limitations if you use only your real hair. For example, even just if you wanted to have bubblegum pink hair for Sakura from Naruto or something, if you were to dye your hair that color, would your job or your school that you go to be okay with that afterwards? Would you know? And also, if you even just dye it a natural color, is it something you have to touch up a lot if you go to a lot of conventions, or is it just going to be a one-time thing? And how much does it cost to color your hair? And there's a lot of things to think about. Some people think it's cheaper just to use their own hair, but or they'll just pick characters that have their hairstyle, and that just kind of limits the possibilities out there if you want to be someone else. And so I actually work for a wig company called Heart of Wigs, and we make high-quality wigs that are affordable to cosplayers. They are made out of a fiber called Hyperlon, which are heat-resistant up to 420 degrees. So if you wanted to straighten a wig or curl a wig, it's possible to do that, whereas with a lot of wigs, like if you go to Party City, or a lot of eBay wigs, or even with your local wig store, the synthetic fibers might not be heat resistant, so it could melt the fibers if you try to do anything like that. So I'll write that down real quick.
Another cool thing about Art of Wigs is that we actually custom make the wigs a bit bigger than typical Chinese company wigs, since Americans typically have bigger heads.
I actually have a smaller head, so they're sometimes a bit big on me, but it really depends on the style. But we have a lot of customers who either have a lot of hair to stuff up in a wig, or they just have a larger head, and that's just kind of typical for the average American. So our wigs are really comfortable. Even if you have a smaller head, they're just very comfortable. I've had some Chinese wigs that were even small on my head. Like I said, I have a kind of a smaller head. But, I like them because they don't give me headaches. I'm pretty easily prone to migraines. And especially if I'm wearing a wig for the course of an entire day, sometimes having a tighter wig can really hurt. So as far as where to go, so say you're doing a character and you've kind of figured out, okay, well, I want a wig that looks like it, and then whatever color. There's a lot of, like on Art of Wigs, you can go online, and they've got over like 70 colors to choose from. Not all of those colors are available in every style, but you can, search the site by either the style, like if it's short, medium, and long, or you can go and search by color and say, well, I want pink, and it's got like a page of pink, so it's like, well, I like this pink, and you can find, well, what style is available in that pink, and then you can go through and pick something close to the style. Now, as far as getting started on cutting and stuff, I'll have you know that I'm pretty self-taught. I am no professional hairstylist. I just kind of experimented a lot, and over the years I just got better. Though I do make a lot of tutorials for like cutting and styling, and it's easier sometimes to see that. And on the website, Art of Wigs, there's a list, there's a tutorials tab, and I have tons of videos on there. And there's also some customer-submitted tutorials as well. And I highly suggest checking those out before taking on any kind of, wig styling. There might be something on there that help you out. So I got this wig right here that is this is how it looks off the website. It's already got these colors in it. And what wigs are made out of are these wefts. Like if you see these strings along the inside, all the hair is sewn and attached to these strings, and there's just layers of that makes the wig. You can usually tell the difference between a high-quality wig and a lower-quality wig based on how many wefts or how far apart they are. And as you can see, this has a lot of wefts in it. If you go to Party City, they'll be like this far apart from each other, So it's, you know, something to think about. Expect to spend at least maybe an average of $25 to $30 for a short wig, for a high-quality short wig online, and they can go as high as $75 on our website. And there's different kinds, like specialty types. There's our website also carries lace fronts, which we don't have an example with us, but basically how those are constructed is that the very front has like a mesh-like material that has fibers that are tied like a latch hook sort of method, and when you trim off the excess lace, it gives this illusion that you actually have hair coming out of your head, like it's a natural hairline. So those are the more expensive to make, though, so those are usually the higher end priced ones. But I mean, on average, like a long wig, a really long wig can be like $40. So I mean, that's just. I know that there's a local wig store in town that has some synthetic and human hair wigs, and I've seen synthetic wigs there, even short ones, that go for at least like $60. And I'm just like, don't do that. Try to plan ahead and order something online to save yourself some money.
Yeah, even if it's not from our company, there are other companies that have decent quality wigs for cheap. We used to order from eBay and other places. It was Anthoglory. There's lots of options out there, even if you're not necessarily interested in a company. Online is generally cheaper.
Different companies have different fiber types. There's another good company out there called Cosplay. They've got their fibers are different from ours. They're very silky, soft, and they're really nice if you're wanting like a long wig or something that you can it's easy to comb out and detangle. However, they're a lot harder to style because with the silky fibers, the hairspray doesn't like to stick as well. So I never really had very good luck with styling those wigs, but the Arta wigs are very good at with styling. They're really easy to style and they take hairspray really well. So, well, I don't want to go off too much on a tangent. Do we have any questions up to this point that anyone has?
Everybody awake out there?
For some people, I guess.
It's still kind of early for a Saturday, but we're glad that you all showed up.
Anyone want to go into like heavily styling or dyeing? Is there any direction you want me to take this, or dyeing? Okay. Now dyeing wigs is a lot different because it's not like human hair. You can't just go get a box of dye from Walmart and expect it to dye the same way as your real hair. They're made out of plastic. So there are different methods that cosplayers have come up with to be able to dye wigs. And some of the popular ones in the past were like Sharpie markers. However, depending on the wig fibers, a lot of, especially heat-resistant wigs, don't take Sharpie dye very well because there's two different methods. There's coloring the wig directly with the markers, and then there's also a method where you pop open the Sharpies, you take the cartridge out, you cut them up, put them in a bottle with some rubbing alcohol, you shake it, let it sit overnight, shake it, occasionally, and then you can put it in a spray bottle and spray the wig with it. However, both of those methods, from my experience, it's really messy and it smells. But my experience is that with like the Arta fibers and also some other wig fibers, it just doesn't stick. Eventually, it'll like rub off on your costume. And that's really bad, especially if you handmade your costume or spent a lot of money on that. So I've actually recently started delving into some alternate methods for our wigs on our website, because that's kind of part of my job as I do the tutorials. And we already knew that writ dye, like fabric dye, could work pretty well. And so I got a budget from my boss, and I bought a ton of different kinds of dyes from the fabric store and tested them out. And on the website, if you look at the tutorials, under the dyeing section, there's like a little reference page that I put up so far. I haven't put up the video tutorials yet for dyeing a wig, but I put up my reference sheets of all the sample swatches I did. And from my experience so far, most of the writ powder dyes actually work pretty well. Some of them work better than others though, like the blues and the pinks weren't working, but I was getting some really awesome results with greens and the black. The black, I actually got a black out of, which is kind of hard to get even with Sharpies, because Sharpies is made of a very condensed amount of brown. So, like with the spray dyes, you couldn't really ever get a really dark black out of it. There's also the writ liquid dyes. Some of those actually work better than the powders, but overall they're a little lighter. They usually don't dye as vibrantly as the powders did, but it depends on the color. And then there's also, if you, I guess the Columbia sometimes it's a superstore, so it probably would have this dye called iDye polyester, and that's meant for polyester fabrics, so it's like, you know, synthetic fabrics. That actually works wonderfully with our wigs, with dyeing. And you have to boil it in a pot though. But luckily, since our wigs are heat resistant, they won't get damaged from boiling it in the hot water. It'll probably it would loosen any curls, and it would probably get some weird waves in it in whatever direction it is when you pull it out of the pot. But you can use a hair straightener to get it nice and smooth again.
With the iDye poly, though, it does have a tendency to the fumes kind of keep the color. She was cooking them over the stove, and it died.
By my microwave. I had the fan on the microwave, so it sucked all of the fumes up in like the vent, and that area where the fumes were getting sucked in was where it got color on it. So when I didn't dye with the fan, it wasn't such an issue.
Yeah.
But
and she only had to dump it in for
though.
like a minute or so, and it was already the right color.
Yeah, no, like the iDye poly works really fast. I got like a really vibrant dark color almost immediately with it. So, but I mean, we have so many colors available that usually you don't have to dye anything unless it's like what you want maybe is out of stock and you have to, or do a special custom color we don't carry, you know. I guess I should go into styling tools that you want to probably get if you're thinking about getting into wigs and styling them. I honestly just started out with a basic pair of scissors, just any kind of scissors that I reserved exclusively for wigs. However, I have upgraded to some professional hair cutting shears that use only on my wigs. You can go, you know, just anywhere. You just use craft scissors from Walmart to start out, and there's so much you can do with a pair of scissors. What a lot of people don't know, though, is, you know, how to cut. And from what I've learned is that you don't want to just do a straight across blunt cut, because then it'll look very natural and choppy. I didn't bring them with me, but I can kind of just do some motions to demonstrate. Basically, like say if I wanted to cut this piece shorter, you want to cut kind of like parallel to where the fibers are going to thin out the ends, and then that way when you comb out all the excess hair, it's going to have a nice kind of natural looking ends. And you can do that with bangs. You don't want to just cut straight across, or you can cut straight across to start you out, but then you want to go back in and cut parallel and just kind of, or at some angles to get it thinned out so it's not too blunt cut. Unless that's what, I mean, yeah, sometimes like those princess hime kind of cuts, you know, like the Japanese princesses. Sometimes you can do it with that, but even then,
Thank you. Brianna Marcoux, your mom is here, you have her badge. Brianna Marcoux, your mom is here, you have her badge.
This is very embarrassing.
You're welcome.
it happens.
Don't worry, Brianna. If you have any questions later, you can ask us.
All right, so going into other kind of things you can use to make your job easier, though, other than just using scissors, you can also get razor combs. Those work fantastic for thinning out hair. The blades dull really fast, though, so just make sure you get one that you can replace the blades out of. And you can get those at Sally's Beauty Supply for like $6, the cheapest, I think. And basically you would just kind of like scrape it along the ends of the hair until it thins it out to what you want. You can also get thinning shears, which if you can get them at Walmart even, or Sally's. They look like a pair of scissors, but they have like some jagged teeth on them on one side, and then you can use that also to thin out, because it only cuts so much of what you're trying to cut. It won't cut everything, so you can use that to thin it out as well, and that works a lot faster sometimes. As far as other kind of things you want to kind of look into is hairsprays or gels and things like that. I will say that hair gel generally does not work very well on wigs, because it's meant to react with the natural oils that your hair produces, which wigs won't have. So generally you want to look into some high-powered hairsprays. Aquanet is a really good cheap brand that's like, you know, really easy to find. And if you want something even stronger, I personally like Got2b hairspray, so sometimes you have to search for it. Some places stopped carrying it. It comes in a yellow can, and it's got like some people with crazy hair on it. I'm sure I should.
Aquanet comes in like a purple can. It's a lot cheaper, but it doesn't, you usually have to use more spray to get the same result as going to be.
Some people prefer the Aquanet though because it doesn't leave, I guess, as much of a residue. Like sometimes, I don't know if this has it as much, over time, like if the fibers get loosened a bit, you might see some of what I call it, hairspray dandruff. And Got2b kind of does that, but usually when I respray over it, it kind of settles it in and it's not really noticeable. So I prefer the Got2b just because it's faster for me and it gets a really strong hold right off the bat. Whereas Aquanet sometimes it does, but for really intense styling, I prefer the Got2b. But if you ask your mom about Aquanet, she might actually know what it is because it was really popular in the 80s. So, and then like I said, don't use gels. Some mousses may or may not work because a lot of that stuff just reacts to the oils of your own hair. So, something to think about. Any questions at this point about materials?
What about the gels?
Gels won't generally work very well unless, it's something that's not supposed to react with the oils of your hair.
I think the Got2b gels tend to work.
Well, there's a Got2b glued, like a hair glue, and some people like to use that for like the tips of their spikes to hold it together. Though I actually have a preference to using just actual like glue. Like I use fabric glue in the tips of my spikes to hold the ends together. And that's something else I want to mention as well is whenever you're using hairspray, you generally don't want to just load it on because that'll make the fibers kind of clump together and look kind of stringy. And if you want a nice soft, full look, you kind of want to minimalize the amount of hairspray you use. So I usually just use like a little bit of glue in the very tips of my spikes, and then I use hairspray and kind of get the rest of it, or mostly like the underside and at the base. And any other questions? Doing the big, intense hairstyle. What I usually have to do is, and like I did this with this wig, is with the really big, chunky pieces, if you just use hairspray and glue alone, the spikes will likely not want to stay up, or at least not for a long period of time. Like it might stay up initially, but then after the convention, it might deflate. And what I usually do is I make some kind of armature support on the inside. And my favorite thing to use is the stiff felt that you can get at craft stores like Hobby Lobby. Like if you go in the felt aisle, there's a big selection of normal felt, but then there's stiff felt, which comes in bigger sheets, and it's like a little thinner, but it's really sturdy. And I'll make my shapes out of that, and then I try to get something that's close to what the color of the wig is first. So I made sure I got black for this wig. And that way, and I would just glob a lot of glue on the felt, and then lay the hair over it, spray it in place, glue the ends of it, and as there were any gaps showing, it wasn't noticeable because the felt was already matching the wig too. And if you don't have to use the stiff felt. A lot of popular other methods are craft foam works, though I like the texture of stiff felt better. So it's kind of like if I'm going to the same place for the same kind of thing, I kind of pick the felt. You can also use upholstery foam. You can use, you can make a form out of like newspaper and tape. You can just use just about anything. I just recommend with certain materials you might want to paint the form first with whatever the color is of the wig before you lay the fibers over it. I actually have some more tutorials on the website where I actually did style like Yami Yugi's hair from the original Yu-Gi-Oh! And I used that same method. And I've got lots of pictures and stuff in that tutorial, and it's on the website.
She also has tutorials on her DeviantArt account for some releases that she styled over the years.
Yeah, I have a few more extra ones on my DeviantArt that I didn't put on the main website because I felt like they were already kind of the same sort of thing compared to what I didn't want to load up too many things as the same thing on the website. So I've also liked to use spray foam to make some really unique shapes. Like I'll just make a glob of it on like some wax paper and let it dry overnight. If I need to, I'll flip it over and let that dry. And then once it's solidified, I'll take a box knife and carve it into whatever the shape is I need. And it's really good for getting those nice organic shapes, and it's pretty sturdy. So, and you can just paint it and then glue and fibers over it. Yep.
What's the average time it takes for you to produce a wig
It really varies. Some of my more intense wigs, like my Yami Yuki wig, took me an entire week because it required a lot of adding extra fibers. We carry extra wefts on our website, which wefts are like, what the wigs are made out of. We have packages of extra wefts that you can get to fill in areas that you would need more fiber. And generally, when I have to do something like that, it takes a lot more time, definitely. Like this wig here, it took me maybe 3 days. I've had some wigs where it looks really cool, but I just did some basic spiking on it, and it just took one evening, so it just depends on the style.
Is that how you did your main wig?
Yeah, like this one only took like one evening,
How do you get like the specific layers?
I first like to take some bobby pins or hair clips and separate the wig out into the different spikes. I used the action figure, if you've seen the Figma action figure as my reference, and I separated it out so I knew how much hair I had to work with in each area of the wig, and then I would do individually, I would spray the underside of the spike or more around the base, use a hair dryer to let it set faster, and then I would trim it. Sometimes I trim it beforehand, and then I glue the tips together, trim any extra if I need to, and then use the hair dryer again to set it. And then I just worked one spike at a time, and it took a full evening to do, but that didn't take too long to do.
Something that she hadn't really mentioned yet, but always keep in mind if you're trying to style a wig, make sure and see how it looks from multiple angles, because people will take your picture from multiple angles. So you'll want it to look recognizable and good from every angle if it's possible. So reference pictures from every angle is really helpful because it gives you an idea. And if there are toys, then that's the best reference because you can see it from every angle that you want. But sometimes it's easy to style it just looking at it from one direction, and then when you turn it a little bit, it no longer looks like the same wig anymore, or it kind of blocks your face. We've had those issues before.
Yeah. Bangs especially, like, this one's not doing it too bad, because I fixed it, but I had like one spike that was like sticking from my eye, and so in some angles it looks really weird because I have this piece right in front of my iris and pupil, so you usually want to avoid that if possible.
Yeah, it helps to take reference pictures of it on your head as you're working on it. Like after every few spikes, take it off the wig head and put it on your own, and take a picture in the mirror at a couple different angles, see how it's looking so far. That way, if you don't get too far without realizing, oh, this isn't working.
I was styling Neku from The World Ends With You, and I thought I had it nice and centered on the wig head, and I had the entire front of it practically done, and then I put it on my head, and it was really off center, and so I had to get some wefts and add to one side, and so the wig is still kind of off centered on my head, but it looks like it's centered, and luckily the headphones hid stuff too, so it's just kind of, you do want to try it on and make sure. If you look at the inside of a wig again, you'll see there's these earpieces, where it's not, it's not just a perfect circle. You've got this piece that kind of jets out a little bit like a triangle right here.
Little stubs right in front of the ears.
And those go right in front of your ears, like the hair that's there. So that's just kind of a good reference point.
Kind of to simulate sideburns a little bit, I think.
And usually what I do is, also when you can get wig heads, styrofoam heads like these at Hobby Lobby or Sally's Beauty Supply,
or us,
or on our website. We have a lot of hairstyling accessories and tools on our website that you can get. And some wig heads, like this one's actually pretty straightforward, it's straight on, but if you notice this one, the head is slightly tilted, and that's the kind of dangerous thing is that when you're styling on those kinds of heads, you have to make sure that the wig, you're either ignoring the face and just styling it so it's symmetrical to you, or you have to tilt the wig and make sure that it looks good with that tilt. So you have to just kind of pick your preference.
Easier to just get it straight on your head.
Yeah, the only thing I don't like about these wig heads is that they're kind of small. These ones are the biggest size female ones that I've found, and they're still even smaller than a normal person's head size. And if you're styling something really intense like Yami Yugi from Yu-Gi-Oh, where the hair is like a helmet, you want to make sure that's going to fit on your head after you're done styling it. Something that I did was I took a bunch of newspaper and tape. I measured my head, like from the hairline to the back, all around in different areas, and I bulked up the wig head and then taped over the newspaper until I had a matching size, and then I styled on that.
Also, canvas wig heads, they're a lot more expensive, but they are usually closer to a human-sized head. We carry them, but they can also be found at other places online.
They're about the same price in most places. It's like $30 average for a canvas head,
Yeah.
but it's really sturdy. It's got like a cork inside, so if you pin your wig in place, you don't have to have this danger of the pin getting, like if you ripped off or something, or ripping up the styrofoam. Styrofoam can get kind of messy, so I have some unique wig stands that I use. So I just like the durability and how it's nice and conveniently, already big, so I don't have to worry about the size of pin. Yes.
Why don't you wash your wig? Like, is it not?
Well, if you wear a wig cap with your wig, you will be keeping your wig cleaner longer because your oils will, all the oils from your own hair will be nice and contained in there. I personally, I can't wash, obviously, my heavily styled ones unless I want to restyle it. But I would say if you wear your wig very frequently, maybe after a dozen uses, you need to wash it. But I don't think it's really necessary because it's not making oils like your hair does. It's plastic. So it's just a matter of if you get a lot of makeup on it, or if you used a lot of just styling, like with hairspray, and you want to just get that out. You can basically, they do make wig shampoos that we also carry on our website, but you can get it at Sally's and stuff, and all you need is just follow directions on the bottle. Usually it'll be like, use like a capful in a tub of water, and then you just slosh your wig around gently a bit and rinse it. Detangling. If you do wash your wig, especially long ones, you'll have the danger of it getting tangled up, so you have to be extra careful with those. But as far as detangling wigs go, if it's straight, it's really easy. Just start at the bottom, comb and work your way up. I recommend a wide tooth comb. Never use. I don't really like those wig brushes that they make. Just a wide tooth comb is just fine. And if you use like something that's too fine tooth, then it might rip out fibers. Just work with a wide tooth comb first, and then you could use a finer tooth comb. But start at the bottom, work your way up. Sometimes longer wigs will, if you overbrush it, or if it rubs against your costume a lot over the course of the day, it might get a little frizzy. With the heat-resistant fibers, with those kinds of wigs, you can easily get that out with just a hair straightener iron, if it happens. And if you have a curly wig, it's a little more difficult, but basically you have to work one ringlet at a time. Take the ringlet, start at the bottom, work your way up, and then just try to keep in mind of what direction that curl is wrapping around, like wrap it around your finger to see what direction it needs to curl. And after you're done combing it, wrap it around your finger to get it back in that curl, and then work on the next one. Because if you just try to start, and comb it all together, it's just going to be this huge, like Hermione hair going on,
And a quick mention with our hair fibers, we did say that they're heat resistant, but if you're trying to curl our fibers, they don't automatically curl like real hair does. Because it's a plastic, it has to cool back down in order to hold its shape. So it's easier to use rollers than to actually use the curling iron.
If you want to curl, get like those foam rollers. You can get them at like CVS. I think sometimes Walgreens might have them, or Sally's. Anywhere almost has them. They're really cheap. And you can just, I usually will use like a hair straightener iron to warm up the fibers initially, and then I'll quickly try to wrap it into the roller, and then I'll use my hair dryer for good measure to add more heat. But then I have to step away or work on the next curl before I take that curl out, because it needs time to set first. Melvina?
If you're trying to get more volume on a wig, how would you do that? Should you get one that already has volume?
Well, it does help to get something that has volume initially. There are different kinds of wigs. Like on our website, we like to give a description under each wig on how they're made. This particular wig has like crimping in the top, and that kind of gives it a lot more ease whenever you're trying to do spiking and anything with a lot of poof in it. A lot of wigs that you'll find on eBay especially, and a lot of Chinese websites will make wigs, a lot of cosplay wigs will have like this little radial part at the crown. It's like a quarter-size skin top, and all the hair just radiates out from that. And usually those wigs are a lot smoother. They don't have any of that crimping in it. And so you have to kind of do your own self-crimping to it, which what you do is you get a fine-tooth comb or a teasing comb, which has like fine teeth, but it also has like stub teeth in it that are kind of smaller. And then you can like just take some hairspray, spritz it, and then you back comb it like crazy. It's like what they did in the 80s. So, and that frizzes up the roots, and that'll give you more volume and poof. If you're doing like poofy bangs, you basically what you kind of want to do is separate some hair backwards